I welcome everyone here tonight at the Rio Gallery in this Broadway Housing Communities building. Thank you for going with the flow and making this last minute switch. I hope that you appreciate that there's air conditioning here. We're working on having cooling measures at recirculation, but we really appreciate your patience and going along with the switch. And we also thank Broadway Housing Communities for working with us for this pretty last minute change, and it's a beautiful room. We're really excited to be here for it. I am Veronica from Word Up Community Bookshop. Word Up, for those who don't know, is originally started as a 1-month-long pop-up shop that turned 14 years old last week. I'm really excited there are also many founding collective members who are in the room right now. A lot of local uptown arts organizations that helped build it together and are also building new things now too. And we're excited to be here too, to be celebrating these really uptown stalwart authors. The space is 10 blocks away from here, 165th and Amsterdam Avenue. Please visit whenever you get a chance. We also have another sister location, Recirculation, which is where this was originally going to be. That's at 160th and Riverside. We hold events at both locations. There are books available at both locations. And Recirculation is primarily pay what you can, dollar minimum. So if you're loading up a classroom library, please come through. We also welcome field trips. If there are any educators in the room or anyone running summer programs, we welcome field trips throughout the year and can do, author visits, set up author visits at your school or school fairs at your school. And we invite you most of all to come use the space itself. If you either want to volunteer or if you want to set up your own program or event, please come talk to me or Emmanuel or Louisa afterwards, and we'd be happy to set you up and have you become a part of everything that happens at Word Up. One thing that we really enjoy most, I think, over the years at Word Up is how multi-generational it's been. From, I think, our very first summer, we had volunteers and interns and people performing on stage who were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and it's always been something that has motivated us to keep going and to try and stay for as long as we can so we can watch all of these young artists and authors grow and hear how their work develops over time. And for that reason, I am especially excited to be introducing Miriam Hagan Flores, who is a young poet who is also part of the People's Theater and who is a local neighbor and student.
Thank you so much, Veronica. That was beautiful. I wrote these 2 poems for my parents, and I really hope you enjoyed them. What makes you you for Mom? Maybe it's your love for pepperoni pizza, or maybe it's your favorite movie. No. The thing that makes you you is your ability to make any word sound fun. It's the late night dance parties listening to Beyonce and Demi Lovato. It's your craftsmanship that makes your writing so beautiful, exactly like you. It's your favorite order at Sweetgreen. Don't forget the extra dressing. It's your love to read and write and share what you know and being an inspiration to many young voices. It's you being a mom, the best mom I could ask for. The one that makes me laugh, the one that makes me cry, and brings me joy if I'm having a bad day. The one that always worries, but for all the right reasons. The one with the big personality and one dance move. We love you. And the second one is for my dad. What makes you you? Is it your favorite X-Men comic? Or is it your love for the 28 days, weeks, and years movies? No. It's taking me on a Saturday adventure. 3 comic book shops in a day. Get a corn dog on the stand, but not one from 42nd Street, because 2 corn dogs there is a price range of a Tesla. It's how when I read your book, JP is exactly like you, just a younger version. How you leak out stories of the Philippines and are not afraid to show who you are in your culture. How you're such a caring person for everyone in your life. It's you being a dad. The best dad I could ask for. You make me feel excited about almost everything, except making my bed. You make me feel special, and I could never ask for somebody better. I love you and Mom with my whole heart. And now, I will be introducing one of the greatest people in my life. Such an inspiration to young people, but is also a young person herself. Can blow the socks off of a stage. Araceli Flores.
We got there. Hi, everybody. My name is Araceli Hagan Flores. I'm so happy to be here tonight. And this is a poem that I wrote for all the people that I love in my life. Iniibig kita. I love you. Abba teaches me the deepest way to say I love you in Tagalog, and I repeat it over and over in my head until the imposter syndrome is scraped off of my tongue. Mahal kita is casual. Pag-ibig is blatant. Iniibig kita. I love you. Deep, flowy, beautiful, double vowel like velvet. And I know we joke, but I love you. It starts in a Twix split right down the middle on the way home with Angie. $1.19 sodas from Marshall's, yes, Marshall's, with her and Sylvie. Guess the scent of the candle at Target, with our voices low to avoid teenage store exile. All of them smell like cinnamon and desperation. Photo shoots with Gami and Fort Tryon, recording our 8th grade selves in front of our building. Sitting all together on the M4 headed for Riverbank. Leah Marie, the only one of us who can effectively pull off a bucket hat. God, I love you. A night out at the anti-prom, in which Angie finishes mine and Gami's sodas, in which we dance to about half a Charlie XCX song with our hands entwined and our faces glistening with a mix of sweat and excitement, in which we mainly do crosswords in the quiet room because we are dorks. Love isn't always cool, but it's the best. Always, always, love is the best. Watch as Mom and Dad type away at opposite sides of the table, and as they write, I see them falling in love all over again. And their love story changes every time they tell it, and Miriam and I laugh at Dad's cinematic facial expressions in old photos, look to see if we can make out their eyes in our own. I ask and ask about love, how they knew, what it felt like, what it feels like. And Mom tells me love is when your heart fills up. And 5 hours with Remington doing nothing feels like 5 seconds. We are skating, gliding through these near 2 months, awkward selves on full display because we are the blooper reel of a Netflix rom-com. Read aloud The Fault in Our Stars at the library. Stay close even when it is, dare I say, 20 billion degrees outside. Show up, work, try, even and especially when it's hard. There's nobody I want to figure this out with but you. And Miriam, with her model-esque wolf cut and feisty clapbacks at life, teaches me every single day to love myself. To purge this idea of self-love as narcissism, to be unafraid of posing, smiling with all my teeth, and as much as she makes fun of my clumsy, messy dancing and decidedly unique music taste, I love my sister. And between Olivia Rodrigo's sing-offs and dolls dressed, set up, maneuvered, even when I don't believe it, you show me how to trust that we're frickin' amazing. Iniibig kita. I love you. And we joke, but I do. I love you so much, and maybe we're all too scared to say it. Do we even want to hear it? When do you know? How do you know? What is this not inside of me? But love is when your heart fills up. When your laughter echoes louder than the construction workers right out the window. When the line breaks and you've never felt more sure. You love because it is monumental. You love because it frickin' builds character. You love because you're ready to make it last. Love isn't always the coolest, but it's always, always the best. Thank you. Thank you. And now, I am so excited to introduce the #1 New York Times bestselling author, Renee Watson, in conversation with my wonderful parents, Ellen Hagan and David Flores, co-authors of the newly published Tell Me Every Lie.
Yes, it's so good to have you all in here and to be in this space sharing with you all. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for warming up the stage. So beautiful. We're going to read a little bit, and then we're going to bring our friend Renee Watson onto the stage.
Should we just start at the beginning? Is that okay? Sunday. This is the kind of story that starts with a lie. Not a white lie like I lost your number or my battery died. Not weeknight lies to Tita Dalisai like I already took out the trash or I'll be home by 9. Not guidance counselor lies like these are the best years of your life or every teacher is here to help you or high school prepares you for the real world. When you think about life, or at least when I think about mine, lies are always in orbit of what we want to be true. Junior year, I lied about being able to write in Tagalog because I wanted Model UN Club to see me as a global citizen. In middle school, I lied about having a girlfriend back in the Philippines because I wanted a girlfriend. When I was 6, I lied about my mom and dad loving each other because I wanted them to love each other. But they'd already moved to different cities, opened separate bank accounts, and started celebrating all the holidays apart. There are a lot of things I want to be true that just aren't, and maybe a lot of things that are true that I wish weren't. This summer, I'm going to lie my way out of other people's pity, out of failure to start, out of the truth tied to my legs like a cinder block. I'll lie all the way to brilliance, exceptional son, praiseworthy college freshman, kind cousin, overall good human being. But hell, I'll even lie my way to feeling just fine, if that's what it takes.
So just so you know, give a little context to Tell Me Every Lie. It's based on these two teenagers who are going to the Lake Majestic Mountain House in upstate New York. One who works there and one who is visiting with his family. And what happens is a dare to see if the teen can fall in love within the week. And so what happens is you see lots of lies, but it's really a story about identity and friendship and love. So I'm going to read somewhere in the middle of the story a little bit about when JP is seeing Mia. My body and mind are buzzing, vibrating, full of electricity. I don't want to go right back to the bunkhouse since I'm afraid I won't be able to fall asleep. It's possible I will never sleep again. So I move slow and methodical back through the dark. Don't pull my phone out because I know this landscape by heart now and don't want to ruin it with some artificial light. The way you see me, people, the world. I keep replaying JP's words in my head, a revolving message, and all I can think about is feeling like that's the way he is seeing me, too. Clear and constant. Even though I've been trying to prove myself all week and pretend I'm more unafraid than I really am, he has still somehow seen something in me that is real. Maybe I am more than who I thought I was a few days ago, expanding, far-reaching, someone brave and honest, even if I've clouded it all in a lie. I collect and calm my breath and try to slow my heart down, steady. I maneuver through the tall grass and blooming mountain laurel along the path. Halfway home, I stop at one of the tree houses and lean against the wooden frame. The sky looks otherworldly tonight, full of massive stars shining and glowing around me. I want to stay here with this feeling for as long as possible, forever if I can hold on to this bliss. And it's not about the heat of JP's eyes on me, my body moving, his hands on my hips, though that feels real too. But it's about him seeing and paying attention to me. Everything I want for myself, he sees me doing it now, making photographs, witnessing people for who they really are, honoring them. He's been watching that happen all week. He doesn't just see me for who I want to be in the future, he sees me for who I am right now. And that feels game-changing.
I'm gonna jump to the scene in the middle of the book. JP's like out in a field. There's a bunch of kites flying around, and he's with his little cousins, Tiffany and Casper. Tiffany and Cass run toward the kids' club table. Jasmine helps them find their kite creations and attach spools of nylon string, and my eyes scan the field. Mia Malik is in the middle of it all. In a sea of resort goers, she oscillates between the vintage nickel camera hanging on her left shoulder and the modern graphite one on her right. Her eye finds toddlers waving to the brightly painted monarchs and dragonflies in the sky up above. She aims a long lens west to catch a jellyfish and a lion dancing as the sun slowly fades into the horizon. Everything is photographs. Photos of newlyweds holding hands, photos of babies holding baby dolls, photos of every line on every face of every elder holding every story. Mia moves through the field with confidence and grace. Her cameras hold the entire night inside. Mia scans the field and spots Tiff, spool in hand, flying a massive green and gold kite. "Whoa, that's really high up there," Cass exclaims. I nod in agreement as Mia frames the kite up with a telephoto lens. "It's a Filipino dragon," Mia starts. "She told me it ate moons and caused an eclipse." "She made Bacanawa," I exclaim. Mia shows me a photo of the kite on the screen on the back of her camera. Tiffany's creation is lush with color and detail. Using the entire diamond-shaped surface, she's coiled the powerful body of a snake with the head of a furious dragon. We look up into the sky as Tiff flies the kite higher and higher. "What is Bacanawa?" asks Mia. Bacanawa is old Filipino folklore. There used to be 7 moons in the night sky, and the dragon swallowed 6 of them and was cast away when he tried to eat the 7th. "Why did he eat the moons?" Cass asks. "Was he really hungry?" "No," I answer. "He was in love with a human from one of the original tribes. A leader found out about them and burned their house down. Bacanawa lost control and tried to swallow all the moons before the humans and other gods kicked him out. If he couldn't have his true love, he wanted to punish people and make them live in total darkness." Just then, the nylon string attached to Tiffany's kite snaps, and instead of falling to the ground, the Bacanawa flies upward towards the faint moon just starting to appear in the evening sky. "Is Bacanawa going to eat our moon?" Cass asks with concern in his voice. "No," I answer. "When there's an eclipse, that's Bacanawa trying to find his way back to his long-lost love. He'll need the moon to find them." I glance over my shoulder looking for Mia, but she's gone. "There she is," Cass points. And yes, there she is, 20 yards away, past the folklore and the workers and guests young and old. Mia is comforting Tiffany, my 11-year-old cousin, who has just lost the kite that she worked all day on. Mia turns back to me in the delicate moonlight, and in this moment, we are closer than we have ever been before. Thank you. Please welcome to the conversation, New York Times bestselling author, Renee Watson.
Yeah!
Holy crow.
I'm going to give you, I think that's yours. Good evening, and congratulations to Ellen and David.
Thank you.
Listen, I mean, I feel like we can just go ahead and cut the cake and just
party.
those poems, your daughters are your children. Do you understand? That's what that is who you
Thank
are
you all.
raising,
You guys are
and that is a beautiful thing to see. Thank you, Sally and Miriam, for starting us off right and for giving us a glimpse into who your wonderful, amazing, brilliant parents are. I think Ellen and David are good at being so many things. They're good at being artists. They're good at being friends, they're good teachers, and they really are good at being parents. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. So I want to, we got right into the reading, and I want to make sure folks know just the plot of the book and what the book is about. So let's talk a little bit about what the book is about, and then the genesis of the idea. Why this love story? Why right now?
You want to start? I was like, Renee, go ahead and start us off. Can you all hear me? I feel like it's me. Yeah. Okay. The idea started very much as David had if anybody's ever been to the lake, to Mohonk Mountain House, which is where it definitely, the seed of it started. David was working there for a conference. We were there. We were sitting at dinner, and we were looking at everybody who was sitting at dinner and everybody who was serving dinner. And we kept thinking about what what is it like for teenagers to work here? What is it like for teenagers to be in conversation with people who are working here, people who are visiting, people who are, and we had, I don't know if we came up with the dare right away, but we did have an idea of what does a love story look like here at Lake Mohonk, or Lake Majestic, which is what it's called in the book. What does a love story look like, and what would happen? How did you condense that love story in 7 days? That was the other thing. How do we tell a love story? And I think the dare might have come later, but that's where the sort of the seed of it came. And I remember specifically sitting at that table, and we were like, let's write a story
I think
together.
we started writing it on a voice memo.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we were just transcribing ideas into a phone, like sitting at dinner. That's great.
And so you both are artists. I mean, you have done all kind of other works, theater, photography, poetry. Why did you want to write a young adult novel? Why did you feel like this is the story to tell in this form?
I was told to do this. No, it was a really funny moment. It felt kind of funny. Like, I thought we were developing something that Ellen was going to write. Like, we were taking these notes down. Or yeah, it was just funny. I was at this arts residency. I worked probably 18 hours for one of those days. So I was exhausted when we were doing this. And Ellen was like, "Oh yeah, you write one voice and I'll write the other." And then she just walked away. And I had to kind of cook up who this guy was and how he talked. So that was, I think that was a big, scary thing, where it was forced upon me. But I'm really envious of writers, though. I think for there's a lot of writers that are in the room tonight. I think writing is the most complete toolkit for the expression. It's very flexible. It's consistently expansive. Like, my medium's mostly two-dimensional photography or a moving image, and that's compressed, and you really only have what fits in the frame of the thing. With writing, I think you can be really, really expansive, and it was just another way to describe the way that something is landing in my head. So that was a challenge, but I really, really enjoyed it.
And I think also David is, like you said, David is a writer. Yes. And even when we first met, I was posting some old photos today, and we originally met when we were 17 years old at this summer program called the Kentucky Governor's School for the Arts. Didn't date for another decade later, but when we dated, David lived in Kentucky and I lived in New York. So we would write each other letters. And so the love story between us was very much a writing love story. We talked on the phone a lot, but there were lots of letters. So I already knew, I was like, David, you could do this. Go ahead.
I remember
really
when you all
it.
had the series.
Yes, Poetry and
downtown.
Pine.
Yes, at Poetry and Pine, they used to host this night of poetry, and for several nights, it were people who you kind of identify. Yeah, they're a poet, they're a writer, they're published. And one night, David Flores got on that mic and read poetry, and I was like, well, excuse me, what is happening? And I was like, you are a writer. When are you gonna write, a book or a collection of poems? Or from that was years ago. That was a long time ago. And since that moment, I have been waiting for this moment. So I'm so glad that you let her encourage you and nudge you. Maybe not so gently, but I'm glad that she did, because I love the whole book. I really love his voice. I love this character that you have developed. And I feel like we need to see young men in books who are like this character. And so thank you for bringing this to life. I'm excited for young people to read it and to get to know him and get to know this love story. You mentioned photography, David. I want to ask you, what has photography taught you about writing? What has writing taught you about photography? And I'm going to ask you about poetry and prose and fiction.
I think it's a discipline. I don't know. I atrophy really quickly. So as a photo practice, I shoot almost every day. I'm shooting or drawing. I make something two-dimensional almost every day of my life. And I think that discipline carried over really well into writing. And thinking about, like, really stripping down what a medium does, I think, is useful. A photograph at its best, the only thing it can really do is just describe. It's all it can do. It's just this thing that fits this perfect little frame. It just describes it. And I think if you're building out a stanza of poetry, at its best, that's what it does too. It describes, and people get it. You know, they can glance at whatever their experience of time is with the piece, they get it. So I think photography really informed that, but it was interesting coming out of the writing and going back into making more pictures heavily. It's interesting the effect the other way, because then there were these, when I'm looking at something, everything is kind of a composition to me. Like every little detail like hangs in my head, like a hanger kind of thing in my mind. Hurts at night. Like if anyone's ever been to my apartment, it's all very neutral and uncluttered walls to get my mind to calm down. But it was all of a sudden there were these words that were describing all the objects that were around me. So it definitely changed my experience with photography, which I was not expecting that to happen at all.
And what about you as a person who writes poetry and fiction? How do they speak to each other? What are they teaching you about each other?
Yeah, I think I love it's funny because other than Watch Us Rise and Tell Me Every Lie, everything else has been either a novel in verse or a book of poetry. So it's I'm always thinking about the poetry of language, or thinking about how words get strung together and the percussiveness of words, or poetry is that sort of distilled language and figuring out how to collect words in a way that I can see it. And so I'm trying to be a poet in the fiction, and sometimes I think they complement each other. I've been talking about writing a lot like a braid, and or all the art forms as braids. We're braiding these ideas, or everything we're doing is informing the things I've seen so many of the artists here do, is informing the art that I do. So I think of it as just hopefully showing up some way to help me see what the story is. Yeah.
So I want to talk about the book. I want to get into the characters, the themes a little bit now. It is a love story, and it is a love story. But it also is so layered, which I really, it is very layered, which I really appreciate. It's a story about grief. It's a story about class. And it's a story about like owning your story and not being ashamed of who you are. I feel like there's a lot about shame and guilt also kind of woven in there. Can you tell us about, the backstories of your characters, who they are, where they come from, and how you build that world that you gave them, to me, made their love story rich, because we got to know who they were as individuals because of their backstory. So can you talk about each character and where they come from, who their parents are, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I say this a lot, that my characters are not me, and it's J.P. Abrigo is not David, but there's a lot of parts of who the characters are, of us in it. I think David and I, when we met, we very much talked about identity, who we were. We were trying to figure out our own identity. David was, we were, even at 17, I think we were figuring out how to show up our true selves. And so we wanted there to be a character who is Filipino-American. Mia Malik is Assyrian-American. She's mixed race identity, white presenting, which is my background, which is David's background. We knew we wanted to talk about race and the complications of mixed race identity. That was like at the core of it. And then we wanted to talk about the land, the connection to the land, and then people had complicated family lives, which we also have experience with that. We know young people, and we were young people navigating family and how to be your true self and how to love your true self. I was telling somebody, every book that I've written is really about someone trying to figure out how to love themselves. Because I was trying to figure out how to love myself, right? Like I was cocky and had a lot of confidence, but at the core I was nervous and self-conscious and full of doubt. So masking with that confidence and cockiness. So I think we wanted these characters to have some of those worries and fears and stressors. I think that's what the core of the characters for me. And I think as we talked about it.
Yeah, and then I think the context is sort of everything. Yeah. The context is everything, and there were no books that had a Filipino American kid in them when I was growing up. Like I really would have loved to have met a character like J.P. Abrigo, and I thought about that a lot while I was writing this. And I think about the cultural imprint of legend and stories that came from before, the way that government works, the way that colonization works, like how close we are to a lot of those things as first generation people, as immigrant people, that really weighed heavily on considering how the character shows up. You know, the structure of the book takes place over 1 week, and it's 4th of July week, which is a really interesting, complicated celebration. You know, and I think about it, my dad was born in 1940. So when he was born, the Philippines was still a colony of the United States. And it wasn't called that. It was called a territory. Like, we see these things called territories, sort of the rebranding of it, but it was a colony. And, you know, 6 years later, July 4th, 1946, the Philippines gains independence. And then there's all the challenges of undoing those complications with how your world has been for however long. Then before the Americans, it was the Spaniards. It's a lot. And I think that weighs heavily on someone's worldview. It weighs really heavily on a young person's worldview because they're learning how to organize those contexts into their real actual life. Right. And, you know, JP loses his father. JP's father has passed away when the story starts. So a lot of the connection, I think, to stories of what came before, he's lost those as a teenager. So I think there's some of that was a really important consideration for me, like in working out the character.
What made the two of you want to talk about class, which is something that shows up in your work a lot, Ellen, your other novels too, and I'm curious what sparked that. What is it that you're wanting to say to young people or get them thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think class is so complicated, and it's so much on my mind all the time. I don't know about if it's also living in New York City, the complications of class. I'm from a small town in Kentucky, Bardstown, and it was, I went to the public school because that's where everybody went, and class wasn't, it was real. You could see everybody coming from all kinds of different backgrounds, and we talk. I don't know that we talked about it as much as young people, but I feel like it was present, and so I feel like it's one of those things that I feel like I want to problematize, or I want to figure out how do we talk about young people who are coming from possibly different backgrounds, and how do they talk about money is one of those taboo things that I feel like people don't talk about enough. And so something to unearth or reveal, like that there are those things happening, and young people see it. You know, absolutely. Young people see it. Yeah. And so it's I think we wanted to put it on the page somehow.
I think it's one of those things where class is, it's being presented in so many ways, and look at the politicians and the way they talk through this on both sides as this simple thing that we can figure out or that we can fix. This is wildly complex. You know, the simple narrative is, in America, if you have money, if you are resourced, then you are automatically a good person. You deserve that. We conflate virtue with financial wealth. And that is mind-boggling to me, that is a thing. You know, the Philippines, sort of pre-colonization, was really a subsistence farming situation. Lots of collective work had to go into keeping people alive, to keeping your family alive and your neighbor alive. That is looked down upon in the American hyper-capitalist, there's never enough for me view. That drives me nuts. So many words I want to use here that I'm not going to use. But that complication was something that we wanted to show up. We don't resolve this.
Right, and I love that you don't resolve it. I love that there are so many things that are still, you know, that this couple is going to have to work through. Well, especially because they start by lying to each other. So there's quite a bit of truth telling that's going to happen, and a lot of restorative work in their relationship. But I appreciate that you didn't give us you know, just a Hollywood happy ending and all that. Although you leave us in a place where we're like, okay, I know I can think about what's going to happen for them and be happy for them. Does that make sense? I want to ask one more question, and I want to get you all ready for your questions. So in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to you all to ask us questions. You know, the thing about writing for the public and the way that publishing works, I know, is that when you're in it, you're just making the story, and then you revise and you do all this work, you get the cover. It can be a year or two before that book comes out. So you wrote this a while ago, and now it's out. And when it's out, it's a love story, and it's summer, and it's all the things, and so much is happening in the world that was not happening when you wrote this book. And so I'm curious about, but I don't think things happen by accident. I think there's something about having a love story being published in a time like this, and for young people to get to also be teenagers and not be only pushed to be activists and care about their world. I'm curious if you can speak to that, given your experience as teachers and parents and artists who are constantly pushing people to pay attention and stand up and raise your voice, and also love each other and have fun. And you also, I mean, if you've ever been to their house for a party, they know how to also turn up. So can we talk a little bit about that, the balance of activism, love as revolution, art? I want to close with some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I love that question. I think, and I have some students, I don't know, I have some students in the house and some young people that are friends and neighborhood people, and so many young people in the crowd who are so, when I watch the way you all as young people move and the way you all do things and the way you share your stories and the way you show up, that and I have some students who are now adults in the room, like, to see the people who were teens who showed me so much of how to exist and how to be your true, full, blooming, amazing, complicated, frustrating selves. To see that and to be able to put it on the page, that feels like a lot of luck. Of like, oh, I get to witness young people growing up all the time. There were these two moments I want to share with you that I keep coming into my head. We were running the International Poetry Exchange program, and there was a kid who joined us for the week. He wasn't even part of the exchange. He just was there. I was like, how did you get here? I don't know how he was from another school.
The snacks are really good.
There was like a love story that happened, and the train was going out, and he was waving goodbye and running after the train at this other student. And I remember that memory will be forever in my head. And another memory of a student who was DJing a party and holding his girlfriend's hand while he was DJing. And I love love. I always say that I love love. I love a love story. I love the beginning of a love story. I love I love love as a radical act.
Yeah.
As like, we're gonna be in community together. We're gonna eat together. There's gonna be food. There's gonna be people we love the most of all in the room, all gathered together. And the idea that you get to do that and celebrate art, I feel like that's the greatest luck and joy of life. And so to put it on the page, I also told people, if you read a book of mine, David and I were teasing, because I was like, there is always a potluck. There's always, and somebody's always busting out laughing. Every time. I'm like, they busted out laughing. You can find, if you look, you're going to find it. Because I was like, those are the best parts of life, is the dance, is the communion, because the world is chaotic and traumatic and horrible. I mean, so I feel like to be able to balance those things and to be able to hold them both at the same time feel thankful for it.
Yeah, and it's that it also takes the pressure off, when you're writing any character, any age, if there's activism involved, there's going to be lots of mistakes. There's that other end of it too, where it's like, oh, my activism needs to be perfect. I have to do this right. That is not how that works. It's not how it works with young people. That's not how it works with elders. Just mistakes are going to be made, but I think the thing that resets everyone is exactly what Ellen's talking about, those unique human expressions of joy and celebration and togetherness. Yeah. It really sharpens all of the edges on all of the mistakes, all the missteps, and all the intentional hurt too. I think so. That's you have to pair them, otherwise you'll just spin off the planet. It's going to be no good. But I love that. And I've always loved that about Ellen's writing. And I got to be along for the ride on this one. I really enjoyed the experience. Thank you.
It's beautiful to see that the balance that you have created in this book. All right, we're going to take a few questions, and then we'll party and eat a little and hug and get books signed. Anybody have a question? Yes.
Long time listener, first time caller. This collaboration, from my perspective, is super unique and beautiful and awesome. And you all being partners in so much, what are some of the challenges that you might have run into with this type of collaboration? Or was it just seamless? Was it like, or was it just flying off the page? That's what I'm curious about.
I feel like I could start and say, David and I, this last month has been the most intense month of work or life that we've ever experienced. And the other day, it was hot, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get online and do this and that. And I said, we made it through writing the book, but I don't know if we're going to make it through the book party and do this, because this is, and we were, not really fighting, but it was about to be just like, this isn't going to go well. And just because it was a lot, I was like, oh my God. And to your point, it was 2 years ago that we wrote the book and edited the book. I was like, where's it on the book? Oh, we're back at the book. So it's exciting, but it's a lot. So it was, we were close quarters. It was, so that's all. But the writing was really great. The writing. It was hard, Fuchs. It was hard. Okay.
Will you share a little bit about the writing?
Yes,
what did you practically do? Like this is how you co-write a book. How did you do that?
Ellen's an epic generative writer. Like if you've had workshop with her, or if you've seen any other projects that she's been a part of, she's epic at doing generative things. That blew me away, like watching that in process, because she got to know her character and her character's circumstances so much faster than I did, just because she's great at getting things down and then could organize them. I think I'm more organized in pockets of things. Like I like frames of things. So there was a lot of comfort in thinking, okay, this is 7 days. How does this plot that we're proposing move across 7 days? So I was bullet list, fill this in, fill that in. But I learned a lot from her process. I wound up, and I don't know if you remember this or not, you were not happy about this. I wrote 2,000 words on, I think, JP's mother, like growing up in Manila and what that was like, which is not in the book at all. But if I didn't write that, I would have never figured out who he is or why he has this relationship. What is that? And I learned that from her. It just takes me a lot longer to do it. Which is like
David's a little bit. I would always say this too. I would do fast, but I was messy. David was very slow, but his work was clean. So it really was different sides of the coin. And so I will say, just practically too, we sold the book with a pitch. So it had a synopsis, so like a two-paragraph, for any writers in the room, I feel like this is good to know, a couple of paragraphs and a timeline. So we knew that it happened over a week. Here's the timeline was maybe 2 pages and a 2-paragraph synopsis. And we had about maybe 7,000 words. So 3 or 4 chapters, maybe. And so when you sell it on a pitch, then you gotta write it. You're like, oh my God, and there's a deadline. So that's why I was like, we can write about other things, but we have to write because you have several months to finish it, and then you have to turn in that first draft. And what we did, we were in Kentucky when we wrote most of this draft, and we were in the dining room, and we got chart paper. David is amazing at plot. And we just said, okay, we have Sunday through Saturday, and we're going to put this chart paper up all around the room. And whenever we can write in here and put it up, we're going to be able to follow. And of course, it changed and rearranged, but at least we had a structure that we could follow, and that was really helpful. Because I'm not great at plot, so he, as a filmmaker and photographer, his vision of plot or movies that was really helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. What do you guys connect with most about the characters?
Oh, what do we connect with most about our characters? Go ahead.
JP Abrigo loves hip hop dancing.
David's a great dancer. David took ballroom dance all through college. If you don't know, David can move on the dance floor. Yes, amazing dancer. Amazing. I know, he's your dance. He should maybe solo after this. I think Mia is different than me in the way that she's I wrote her initially as like wanting to take all the dares, but she's actually a little bit more reserved. She's not the dare taker, and I was very much the dare taker in high school. So I think that's where we're separate. And the way I'm like her, she loves to eat. I feel like there's a lot of food in the story too.
Listen,
and that's
Ellen Hagan's books have meals, amazing food scenes in them. You write eating very well. That your character, in every book that you've written, there's always some really good scenes where people are communicating though around. It's the food is there, but it's what's happening at the table that I always think is really powerful and just feels like home. It really does feel like I know these people because my family's the same way. Anybody on this side? I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Hello. I don't know if it was Sally or Miriam mentioned how as you were writing on opposite sides of the dining room, you fell in love with each other, right? Because even though these are not Mia and JP are not you, you knew each other when you were young, right? You have young people in your home. So what was that? We've heard the frustration, but what was it going? Did you have moments where like, remember that? Like, were there some personal things you brought back? Like, what was that journey of like knowing each other for over 20 years and then
hitting a deadline? I don't know that I've ever been as loved in my life as when I was hitting deadlines on this book. It was pretty incredible. I really enjoyed that. I've never been smiled at like that before. I was a little ahead once on a chapter.
All right. I would also say I would yes, those things were all let me say this too. David and I don't not only work as writing together, but we work at DreamYard together. We're sometimes in the same room together. We're sometimes in the same Zoom. Like there are you have to really love somebody to be to be that close to somebody and to still be like, oh wow, I still want to talk to you at the end of the night, and I'm still curious about how your mind works, and you're brilliant, and the way you father, or the way you parent, or the way you friend people, or the way you community. That part feels like I was a renewed sense of, God, you're so talented too. I just want to be around your talent or your sensibility or the way that you call people in, And David was gone twice this month, I think, too, for various reasons, for the book and for seeing family. And I remember being like, oh, we're not going to make it without David here, because he runs. We need David in the house, because it is a close sort of, you do this. Okay, let's, and when it's not working or when he's gone, it's a longing or a missing of like, oh, there's something amiss.
There's a lot of that interdependence, I think, was the start of
I like
our
that word, not codependence.
relationship. Well, I remember like we had a wonderful first date down in Kentucky. This is like 20 years ago. 2 weeks later, I was on a flight up to New York. We went on a second date in New York, and I was on the plane going back to Kentucky. I was like, I've met somebody. I moved to New York. And I think that we've never. I want to talk to you all the time about everything, and there's when there's space there. Like if one of us has to be away for some other thing, it's a challenge. It's really, really hard. Getting back to that idea of context, some of it is being able to say it to the other person and having them support you in your direction, or maybe offer some clarity or suggestion on how to tackle something. But yeah, I love you very much, and I love working with you, and I love that we get to talk about all the things silly and serious every night. I love you.
And we get to debrief this tonight, too. Yes. Thank goodness. I love you, too.
We have one more question.
It's not a question.
Oh, okay.
You guys just fell in love all over again.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm kind of hello. I'm interested in the crafting of the story and how you craft it. So I get, I have to read it, but I'm just wondering, do you decide, okay, these are points that we want to hit, like I want to hit race issues or class issues, I want to hit this point, I want to hit this point, and I want to tell it through a love story. So I'm just, like, how does it get built? Because then you said later on that you was looking at a chart and you saw a plot. Is this after you have like established what characters are? And is the story writing itself, how much are you writing beforehand and how much gets written as it just goes?
That's an interesting question. Thanks for that. We met a lot of the characters sort of through writing. I think generative work really helped. I love it's a love story, so you have these two main characters, but the supporting cast of the story was a blast to write and work with. So some of it is discovering it as you're going, like through the generative process, and then pulling back with the idea of like talking about race or social justice or that kind of context in someone's life. Just think about the way that exists in a real person's life. Like kids are always dragging me for liking comics. I know you're a fan of comics too. I had this scene where there's two characters that are just talking about the original cover of X-Men #1, and X-Men was like written as this big.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
X-Men's like this allegory for all the different kinds of identities that I think we're bumping into dominant culture in the 1960s. But all those characters were white on the cover of the magazine. That was always weird to me. And I thought like this Filipino guy and this black guy would have a great conversation about that, because I've had that conversation when I was 17, 18 years old. So a lot of that just kind of spilled in. So the race, is talking about race or social justice, I write about it in the way that it just shows up in conversations in my life. I don't necessarily think, oh, I need to put this here. Right. It's just there. Yeah, it's just there.
Okay, so this is the last question, because I know you love music, and I'm thinking of wanting to know either your characters or your favorite love song.
I'm going to say Love on Top, Beyonce. It's for you and you. What do you got?
It's probably Stevie Wonder. This is
Oh,
hard.
yes.
I'll play a few tonight, but like that song that I.
All right, he gonna play it for her
But that,
tonight,
like,
y'all.
but that I believe when I fall in love with you, it will be forever. That's just a nice like pop song. It's so good.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your love with us. Thank you for giving us these characters. Ellen has an announcement to make, and then we are going to celebrate.
Yes, I just want to make sure that any teen reader who is here goes away with a free book. We want to make sure that it could be Tell Me Every Lie, but it could also be one of the other books that's over there. Thank you all. Thank you, especially for the young people who are in the house, the teen crowd. Thank you all. Thank you. And we're here, of course, Dave and I are here to sign, and we're also here to eat and hang out. And please get snacks. Take them to go. Take them to stay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Woo.
Awesome.